City Sounds. Creating podcasts, creating podcasters.
This is the place to start. In this series of podcasts, we hope to give you some tips and inspiration to get help if you hit a few bumps along the way on your time here at City.
Anxiety, I feel like anxiety is a really hidden and quiet problem.
Balancing everything is so hard.
It's just overwhelming sometimes.
It definitely goes up and down depending on how stressful the deadlines are.
In this episode, we talk about how being away from home can leave you feeling isolated, depressed and stressed.
Loneliness and the anxiety and stress that comes with simply just moving somewhere new.
I actually submitted my dissertation with tears in my eyes.
But also how asking for help can make things so much better.
There's no prize for suffering. Get help and try to let people who are in charge know.
Welcome to The Place to Start. I am Tom Richardson and I'm joined by Isabel Donaldson, a student from the School of Journalism's MA Broadcast course. Hi Isabel.
Hi Tom, it's great to be here. And in this episode we're going to hear the story of Farah Manai, a graduate from the law school here at City University.
Yeah, she's going to talk about her experience of feeling overwhelmed and isolated and how that can be felt even worse as an international student. So let's have a listen to the conversation.
I would say the majority of university students are already stressed. International students are double stressed in terms of immigration, visas, and so on. First, I felt alone, isolated, and I already had mental issues before I come to City University of London. I was suffering with depression and general anxiety disorder. The weather wasn't helping as well. These are the very first challenges. Then I didn't know where to start. It was very important for me to attend the induction week because that kind of connected everything for me. So I knew what to access, how to access, and who to speak to. And then I decided to go on the university website to seek help when it comes to mental health. I read the website and I booked an appointment with the mental health advisor, which I owe him a lot. And I appreciate everything that he's done for me so far, even after I graduated.
These problems then all started to build up and reached a point where you basically gave up. You felt that it was just all falling apart.
Yes, that's part of the issue. I had a lot of issues, as I said. I failed some of my modules and I had to resit them. And I managed to pass all of them, apart from only one module, which I failed by 3 points. And I was really depressed. At that time, the results came out before I actually submit my thesis. And at some point, I felt like I just want to let it go and I don't want to submit my dissertation as well, because what's the point? If I'm failing, what's the point of actually submitting a 10,000 or 20,000 words? I was helpless, alone, but my course director kept trying to encourage me to submit that dissertation, and I did. I actually submitted my dissertation with tears in my eyes, and I was crying the whole time, but I did submit it. And I ended up getting a very high mark on it, a first class on my dissertation, which is something I'm really, really proud of, because at the time I was really depressed and I don't even know what is the quality of work that I submitted.
Yep. And I think that really speaks to the need to get help in whatever way we can.
I reached out to my mental health advisor and I told him that I think I need a support plan because I don't feel like I feel in disadvantage and I need some help. And he was able to liaise with my people at the law school, and they created a support plan for me. And it was really important for me to have that, because a lot of things such as allowing extra time for the assignments or the exams that really helped me during days where I was sick or I was having mental breakdowns and I was on depression meds. And these have probably people who are listening and people who had these meds know the side effects. And trust me, when the side effects kick in, you're not in position to actually submit any assignment or even work on anything.
What would your advice be then?
The first thing I want to say is that I know that you are in a terrible situation. You feel really bad, and no matter how many people tell you that it's going to be okay, you're never going to be convinced, because I was in that situation. But it will be okay. This will pass like everything else has. My advice would be get help as soon as you can, because if you get help as soon as you can, you're helping yourself and you're helping people to help you. And the earlier the university or people from the university have a track history of what you're going through, the better it is for them to help you. And as a result, it's going to be beneficial for you. And even if you didn't alert them early on, seek help. Don't suffer alone, because there's no prize for suffering, for whoever suffers the most. There's no prize for that. Get help, and try to let people who are in charge know that you are in need of help.
Thank you so much, Farah, for sharing that and for telling us your story.
Really great to hear from Farah there. She speaks so movingly about her experience. Let's talk it through then, Tom. She spoke at the beginning about being an international student and how the problems that she had in the country that she was in before came with her here and were increased by being here. How common is that to come across?
It's very common. All of the international students I see express similar themes. They have very little experience of living in the UK and what life is like here, and accessing help in the UK, registering with services like GP, for example. There are many kind of cultural barriers, I think, to get around. And they feel very lonely, very isolated. A lot of people have given up at a high cost to be here. I don't know, maybe their expectation is different to what it is when they're here. London's a very expensive city, difficult to kind of find your place, I think, particularly as a student, as a young person anyway. You're bringing all of that. So it can take a long time to get settled or get settled at all. And like Farah was saying, she brought some pre-existing issues with her that maybe she didn't resolve or, get treated in the first instance. And people are sort of pushed into an academic environment where a lot is asked of them. Their main driver is to study, establish a career, often in the UK. And like Farah was saying, they're at the behest of the Home Office, student visas and things like that. So if they're underperforming, there are implications upon their visa, and that sort of, feeds into this stress.
They've got a lot of extra pressures on them, and I think it's really important to hear what you are saying about the fact that it's common, because we know that when we're struggling with our mental health, there's this tendency to feel like we're alone and we're the only ones suffering with it, which can just make you feel worse. And that was something that kind of came across when Farah was talking about the problems that she had with her exams, and it was really heartening to hear the success that she had with her thesis at the end of that, but that was clearly quite a journey.
Studying exams just puts you through a complete mental test, what is asked of you. If you've got, an underlying mental health condition, these things become way more challenging. In Farah's case, she was really struggling for a long time, wasn't able to get help when she wanted it. The most important thing she did seek help when she needed it. Clearly got a lot from the intervention offered to her here.
The practical support of that support plan sounded like it had a real impact. Can you talk that through a little bit more for listeners who might not know much about that option?
For reasonable adjustments, they're called. They're more kind of little practical supports, like extra time in exams, rest breaks, things like that, extensions on written work. I think in Farah's case, the thing that really benefited from her was sort of like she felt very alone. She felt very disconnected, and she was in a very sort of vulnerable place. She wasn't speaking or confiding with any of her family back home, and you know that also feeds into cultural pressures, but she didn't want to admit to any of her family that she was failing.
That's really tough.
Really tough. What she really found helpful was, with her consent, we were able to have sort of quite open conversations within the law school. It took a little while, you know, in a lot of these cases it's about the relationship and trust and getting a sense of each other really, and feeling that they can be really helped by the person. So I think, you know, she got to a place, fortunately, where we were able to establish that, and I was able to scaffold out the support for her in the school, you know, with welfare officer and personal tutor and other sort of important figures on her course, and also kind of link her to her GP as well outside of the university. So kind of a combination of everything really helped her.
Farah put it best at the end when she was talking about getting help early. How important is that, Tom?
I think it's something you don't have as a student. You know, your time is so finite. You know, everyone's working to deadlines, and you know, the clock's always ticking, and people don't prioritise their well-being. You know, they prioritise being a student, and they burn out. You know, we see it all the time. So as soon as possible, you know, if you've got any questions about anything relating to your mental health, your well-being, they're just questions that we can hopefully answer or think about, and nothing's lost by that.
That 15 minutes, I don't know how long your sessions are, but that short period of time to ask those questions, work out what options are available, they must empower you, right?
Thank you for listening, and thank you to Farah for sharing her story, and thank you, Isabel, for joining us. Until next time, this was the place to start.
If you've been affected by anything you've heard here, please get in touch with the Student Wellbeing team or check out episode 6 in our series for more information.
Just knowing that there's things available in City for me.
This episode was produced by MA Podcast student Charlie Brown.